oneke mmene alilimu ndi Mulungu abwera kwamba achiona kuzikula pansi ndipo afune asafune munthu ampa chimenecho ndipo achita chimenecho basi sizokambira naso ayi ndimafuna ndingofotokozerako pang'ono kwa zinthu izi. Nyanja Indian Ocean tipemphere ngati afuna Mulungu atithandize pachiopsezo chachikulu kuzikula pansi maiko amene azungulira nyanja imene. Pachiopsezo pansi pa nyanja pakuchitika zinthu, mphepo imene kuchokera pansi pa nyanja Indian Ocean zane kuchokera ndi ikungolunjika kumene kwaloledwa kuti ilunjike, ndi chimene chikuchitika. Sono tikuyenda kupemphera komanso USA tipemphere pakhala mpungwepungwe ndiye mpungwepungwe kugwedezeka kwawo kumeneko kukhuza maiko ambiri. Tikuyenera kupemphera chipacha chimenechi. Mulungu atithandize ndinu nokha ndife tokha amene tikhoza kuwauza anthu choona ngakhale umabisala, koma sungakambe za chimene chikubwera usakuziwa chikubweracho. Ayi sizitheka, sizingatheke. So pamene pali vuto ntchitoyi ili ndi anthu ambiri koma amene apita chifukwa cha kusiyana zifukwa zawo osati chifukwa cha Mulungu.
Demonstrations are taking place around the world to show solidarity for the protests in the U.S. In London, thousands of people gathered in Trafalgar Square with signs while chanting George Floyd. They then marched through the city, walking past the U.S. Embassy and the British Parliament. The demonstration defied the British government's ban of mass gatherings because of the pandemic. Police did not interfere.
We've seen for hundreds of years black people and people of colour be absolutely abused and killed on the streets, and it's just getting worse and worse. We've had enough, and if we're not going to listen, we're going to scream louder and louder, and we're not going to stop until something is done. We've had enough.
No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace!
In Germany, protesters poured into the streets of Berlin chanting Black Lives Matter and I Can't Breathe. Some demonstrations in the German capital have turned violent. Police used tear gas and rubber bullets to restore order. And more than 2,000 protesters converged on the U.S. Embassy in Copenhagen. The peaceful march wound its way to the Palace Square as demonstrators chanted, "No justice, no peace." And a more subdued demonstration in Iran, where students held up signs in solidarity. The supreme leader of the country tweeting, "If you have colored skin, are walking the streets in the U.S., you can't be sure you'll be alive in the next few minutes. That is the racism of America." In a time that seems chaotic, there are powerful calls for people to come together to make changes. We leave you tonight with some of those poignant moments and a plea from a young black man who is sharing his emotional message through song. I'm Robin Gill. Thank you for watching. Good night.
Today, we're asking our community for peace. But I want to be very clear. We are not asking you for patience, and we are not asking you for pacifism. We're asking you to take that energy and use it not to destroy our neighborhoods, but to destroy the historic culture, to destroy the systemic racism.
Black lives! Black lives!
We lost humanity on that day. And what we're doing right now in these protests, in these moments, as we risk ourselves in this pandemic, is fighting for humanity.
Well, we use this as a moment to say that we will not do what other cities have done, and in fact, we will get better than we've been.
And I urge you, and you know who you are, to think long and hard about what you can and should do to devote the passion and the energy that you showed last night in wreaking havoc in our city to doing something different with your life and your talents.
I'm standing here because what I saw was my people face to face with this crowd, and everybody's thinking, how can we use force and diffuse it? And I'm not having that. I'm not having that.
We're here peaceful.
You have a right to be upset, to be scared, and to want to yell.
I'm a young black man doing all that I can to stand. Oh, but when I look around and I see what's being done to my kind, every day I'm being hunted as prey. My people don't want no trouble. We've had enough struggle. I just wanna live. God protect me.
We're here inside CNN Center. We're just in the last 10 minutes. Demonstrators have started to come up and down this thoroughfare of Marietta and break out windows of CNN Center. It was just a short time ago that they started shooting what appeared to be BBs at us. I was struck with a BB pellet. It's unreal to witness here, Chris. This police line, we just saw an officer extracted. An officer was down. We don't know exactly how they were injured. Another officer here that was standing on these steps took some glass in the arm. These demonstrators are ready to confront these law enforcement officers. You have law enforcement in heavy tactical gear, protesters that are, clearly ready. You just see something else happen there. Another demonstrator threw what appeared to be a large object at one of those SWAT officers. They're throwing signs at the police officers, and they're not showing any sign of dispersing. And about 15 minutes ago, they gave an order from the armored vehicles that had shown up here just outside. Those images, I'm not sure if you're looking at them. They gave the demonstrators an order to disperse. It was then that we saw more show up in tactical gear, tear gas masks, and that's when we heard over the radio that this was happening. These officers have already fired or deployed tear gas into the crowd. We saw another with a long gun fire what appeared to be a rubber bullet at another demonstrator who had thrown a large object. You see these demonstrators are walking inside CNN Center at this point. It seems as though this man might be detained. He's being detained. Let's see if we can talk to him. Another rock just thrown there at police. We're right behind the police line. These are very large objects. Police being hit. This demonstrator, let's see if we could ask him why he was here, guys. Hey, why did you show up here today? Why are you here? Why did you come here? What made you show up?
There needs to be change. Here in our country, it's not black, white. Officers need to be trained better.
You took me off the air?
No, Nick, you're still there. You okay?
Hey, yeah, okay, yeah, sorry. I didn't know if I was taken off the air. This is a live active situation.
What did he say? I couldn't hear all of it.
You guys heard that there. I was trying to get an interview with the demonstrator. He said he wanted police can do better. Police can do better. I'm here for change. We've heard the chants of no justice, no peace. Another large object just thrown there at CNN. This is our home, Chris, This is where we come to work every day. Journalists who are trying to tell the truth, trying to deliver information. It's one of the noble parts about society, and these demonstrators have decided to come here today to take out their frustration and their anger, not just on the police, but it seems on our CNN Center as well. It is unreal to see this. I know I keep using that word, but you never think something like this is going to happen here. Atlanta has been historically a city that, has held demonstrations, even during the rash of police shooting of African-American men in 2015. This was a city that held large demonstrations, but they were by and large peaceful. This is nothing but.
Now, how long has this been going on, Nick?
They've been here since 3 o'clock this afternoon. We understand it was, a smaller crowd which gathered this afternoon. And it was about 7 o'clock that we started to get alerts from our national desk that they were throwing projectiles out in front of CNN Center, doing graffiti. We showed up about a half hour later, and within minutes, things took a turn. Here comes another object being thrown by a demonstrator in a mask. Now more reinforcements being brought in, coming behind our photographer, William Walker. What's going on, Kevin?
So what they're doing is...
They're calling for more shields, guys. Things are getting really bad out here, Chris.
Nick, what they're going to do is they're going to create what they call a phalanx, okay? They're going to create an angle of these shields. And what they're going to then have to make a decision to do is to either hold, which is they expect these windows to be broken and people to advance. And this is going to be the line that the officers draw, that you will not come any further than this. The decision that's more complicated for them is whether or not to move forward, because they only have where this white guy with the skateboard is standing. That's the only way out of the building for them. And they will not fit through there.
Yeah, that's right.
And that is a very dangerous thing to do. So they are doing a stand and hold right now. What are you hearing?
Well, it's pretty clear that these officers are nervous. They're seeing this situation de-escalate. They're trying to, as you say, hold this line here. And to the credit of the police officers, so far we have seen them not use much force while they've been having these large objects thrown at them. They are establishing their presence right now. There's no doubt about that, holding this line here, Chris. Well, we'll be live right here covering it all, Chris. We're right behind the police line. They're clearly, the officers are outnumbered. Those demonstrators are going back, they're very deep, going back towards Centennial Olympic Park. I feel as though I believe I just heard what I thought was a taser deployed. I don't see anyone, though, that was on the other end of it. You're seeing more shields, more reinforcements come into that line. Police officers telling their colleagues, directing them to where they need more reinforcement. We're seeing now more demonstrators come to the front. They seem like they're antsy, Chris. They seem like they're ready to charge. This is not a good look. This is not a good sign here for these officers on the other side of it. They did bring in those reinforcements, the SWAT team, members of the bomb squad, state patrol, local police officers, plain clothes. They've given these orders already to these demonstrators to disperse. They were starting to gear up with tear gas masks, ready to deploy tear gas, when all of a sudden these windows started breaking. And those projectiles continue to fly in the direction of the police, Chris. There's another one.
Wow.
Gosh.
So, and just so people understand what's going on, this is a big building, and this is an expansive lobby area. You are not in the newsroom. This is the front of a big
Chris,
corporate complex.
This used to be the world's largest indoor amusement park, the wacky world of Sid and Marty Krofft, before Ted Turner bought this and turned it into what is the Omni Center and then became CNN Center. This is a crowd that came to confront police. They're angry. And we can't underscore, on the cursory level, you see the violence that is happening and unfolding right in front of our cameras. They're here under the premise because a black man was killed by police. They want to hold police accountable. Their message, however, has taken a violent tone here. And we don't hear the mention of George Floyd's name at all.
Well, this is a bizarre scene for people who aren't used to this. You have some people are laughing, some people are videotaping.
They just threw something on fire, Chris, a firecracker.
Yep.
Something's on fire. Shit.
Nick, you all right?
You okay? You okay? You okay, guys? You all right? Is everyone okay? You all right, William? Okay, we're okay. Our crew's okay. They just threw a firecracker in on us. What was that?
Yeah, that was more than a firecracker.
Well,
like one of those.
Was that like a
pretty powerful firecracker?
It might have been a flashbang,
Nick.
Nick.
Got our heart pumping a little bit.
It might have been a flashback. They may have gotten their hands on an undetonated flashbang that the police use, which does exactly what you just saw. Everybody's okay?
Good gracious. They just put something else on fire. Everything is okay, but they've just set something else on fire outside, Chris. We don't want to get any closer than here, but can you see what's going on? You pushing on that? No, okay. These demonstrators are starting now to make their way back towards the park.
Well,
they're loading. We understand my producer, Kevin Conlon, says that they're loading tear gas canisters up right now.
But if that's tear gas that's in front of there,
our security's telling us to move. Chris, I gotta go.
Yeah, Nick, if that's tear gas, you're going to want to get away from it because it's going to come up the stairs fast.
We're getting out of here, Chris.
All right, get yourself to a safer
We're getting out
location.
of here. We'll get back to you later.
The scale of devastation is overwhelming. Days of heavy rain, floods, and mudslides in central Vietnam have swept away entire communities. Thousands have lost their homes, and millions are affected. In parts of Quang Binh province, the floods are inescapable. All these Vietnamese can do is stand on the roof of their home, waiting and hoping for help.
I have not eaten since yesterday. The floodwater is now at the level of my roof. We have nothing. No food, no phone, nothing.
A rescue unit carries the body of a colleague who didn't survive. More than 100 Vietnamese have also lost their lives in the disaster. About a third of them, soldiers. Outside this hospital, staff and patients wait for help. Everything inside is flooded. And the government warns things could get worse as Tropical Storm Sardel approaches. With all their possessions gone, many have also lost their source of income. An estimated 700,000 livestock have been killed or swept away in the heavy rain. It's a similar story in neighboring Cambodia, where dozens of people have been killed and entire villages evacuated. And there's already widespread flooding in the Philippines. Back in Vietnam, rescue teams are preparing for the worst, for what's already being described as the worst floods there in decades. Katia Lopez-Odoyan, Al Jazeera.
The result of days of heavy rain in Indonesia's Luwu Regency. Rescuers hampered by thick mud and disruption to phone networks.
I lost my sister and her 2 daughters. They still haven't been found.
Local authorities say people are reporting their missing relatives to them in multiple districts.
We still don't know for sure how many houses were damaged or the total number of victims, possibly many people.
In Bangladesh, more than 1 million people are impacted by flooding. The heavy monsoon rain started late last month and has worsened in recent days.
The floodwater is constantly rising. We can't go out and neither can our cattle.
Neighbouring India is also suffering from mudslides and flooding, with thousands of submerged houses in central Assam after one of Asia's largest rivers, the Brahmaputra, burst its banks.
Everything's underwater. Our homes, the roads, everything's been destroyed.
In Nepal, at least 100 people have died since monsoon rain started lashing down late last month. Landslides and flooding in the past week have swept away hundreds of houses, making many families homeless. And China is facing its worst flooding in more than 30 years. Weeks of torrential rains have damaged tens of thousands of homes, forcing almost 2 million people to seek alternative shelter. The weather disaster comes as parts of the Asia-Pacific deal with a surge in COVID-19 infections. Jessica Washington, Al Jazeera, Jakarta.
You are Jehovah. You are Jehovah. You're the mighty man in battle. You are Jehovah. You're the mighty man of war. You are Jehovah. Jehovah, you are Jehovah. You are the mighty man in battle. You are Jehovah. You're the mighty man of war. You are Jehovah. You are Jehovah. You are Jehovah. You're the mighty man in battle. You are Jehovah. You're the mighty man of war. You are Jehovah. You fight my battle and I hold my peace. I don't need to worry, I don't need to fight again. You are the mighty man in battle. You are Jehovah. You are the mighty man of war. You are Jehovah. You are Jehovah. You are Jehovah. You're the mighty man in battle. You are Jehovah. You're the mighty man of war. You are Jehovah. Oh, demons tremble when your name is called. Mountains skip whenever you show up. You are the mighty man in battle. You are Jehovah, Jehovah, the mighty man of war. You are Jehovah. You are Jehovah, 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 Lord. You are Jehovah, the mighty man in battle. You are Jehovah, Jehovah, the mighty man of war. You are Jehovah. Invisible God, there is none like you. Ancient King, you are worthy to be praised, God. You are the mighty man in battle. Oh God, you are Jehovah. The mighty man of war. You are Jehovah. You are Jehovah. You are Jehovah.